Sixers, they just can't seem to unlock the puzzle that's the Boston Celtics as they drop the big game on Saturday night down in South Philly. Trea Turner made his debut, spring debut that is, in pinstripes. Eagles maybe on the cusp of hiring a defensive coordinator, breaking news a few minutes ago. All that and more, trending in the AM. It starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Do me that favor. If you want to get interactive with the show, head over to the DSM Media YouTube page, hit the like, the subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'd greatly appreciate it. Best place to drop your comments, thoughts, questions about the Sixers, Eagles, Phillies, whatever you want to get into today, we will talk about. If you're watching along over on the Twitter page, you can retweet and follow us there. But any of your questions and thoughts, I cannot see them. That's not where you get involved with the show. You got to do that on YouTube or on the Facebook page at DSM. Good morning to all. We've got a lot to get into today. A lot on the agenda today as we get set here. Sixers dropped the tough game in South Philly on Saturday night. We're going to talk a lot of Sixers again tonight. A lot on my mind of the Sixers team after watching them again struggle to unlock the puzzle that is the Boston Celtics. So we're going to get into that. Phillies, Trea Turner made his spring debut for the Phillies. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Some of the rule changes in baseball and how they came into play this weekend with the start of spring training. Manny Machado signing a big extension with the San Diego Padres. Touch on that, comparing it to Bryce Harper, who we got here in Philly. And the Eagles. I was going to talk about the lack of a defensive coordinator, but it seems like news broke a few minutes ago that they're bringing in a guy for his second interview. Most likely seems like he will be the guy that becomes the defensive coordinator. So we'll get into that as well. Plus one other final little topic that I'll tease right now. Something that really annoyed me this weekend that I'll have to get into later in the show. All right, so let's get Sixers talk underway here. They dropped heartbreaker Saturday night, South Philly, the Boston Celtics, national TV. Big game atmosphere, playoff atmosphere at the Wells Fargo Center. They dropped it 110-107 to the Boston Celtics. And they were this close. This close to pulling out the miraculous tie as the buzzer went off. Joel Embiid heaves a near full court shot. He was just this close to getting it off in time. He knew. They replayed it. He knew he didn't get it off. This close. But should it have come down to that point? Should the Sixers have been able to beat the Celtics team? I was tweeting out halfway through the game. First, you hold John Morant in check on Thursday coming out of the All-Star break. Then you go up against Jason Tatum and that crew there. And you basically held Jason Tatum in check for 3 quarters plus of that game. And what happens? You let Jason Tatum, you let the Celtics get back into it, and you blow it. And there's a lot to talk about and dive into the game, but we're going to dive right into the play that basically cost us the game, and that's the final play, the final shot that Jason Tatum was able to get off to win the game in the closing seconds. Jason Tatum, we know, everybody knows, the announcers know, everybody knows what play is coming there in the final second there to get the final shot off for the Celtics. They know exactly. They're calling it out. Everybody is calling out exactly what they're doing. They set it up, and then a timeout was called, and they reset it up again. And this is exactly what we're getting to. It was a great game, but they left Tatum and Horford wide open free threes all game. But giving Tatum that shot, pretty much uncontested, to close the game, to win the game, cost it. Now, you're looking at the team, the guys that played, the box score for the game, 10 guys saw the court. Milton only had 2 minutes. Paul Reed only had 5 minutes. So you really ran an 8-man rotation on Saturday night. You know Jason Tatum is going to go into the backcourt, run forward, catch the ball, spot up, take his shot, or slash right to the basket. Whatever. One of those two things is going to happen. The ball is going to go into Jason Tatum's hands in that situation. You absolutely know it. Jason Tatum is a 6'8", all-star, MVP caliber forward. You just traded Matisse Thybulle, your best perimeter defender, to go get McDaniels, a 6'9", 6'10" forward. He's on the court for the final play for his defensive purposes. But the defensive scheme that Doc Rivers drew up had 6'2" guard DeAnthony Melton guarding Jason Tatum. Why? What was Doc Rivers and this coaching staff thinking in the huddle of that timeout? We know Jason Tatum's going to get the ball. We know they want him to take that last shot. Let's put one of our smallest guys, the smallest guy on the floor, on their best player. I know he was brought here in the offseason also with that thought that he was a great defender. He's got long wingspan, etc. But that is not putting your best player, your best defensive player on the best. That was one of the worst coaching decisions in my opinion. Now, I'm not overreacting to the loss. Look, the Sixers just can't seem to unlock the puzzle that is the Celtics. They just can't. The Celtics, no matter who's the coach of the Celtics, dating back to Ainge, they just seem to always have our number. Always a well-coached team that seems to figure it out. Joel Embiid has figured it out. He's back to getting his numbers against the Celtics. Celtics are a better team. They should have had McDaniels or switch off to Harden when Tatum. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. McDaniels had to have the cover to be the one to be covering Tatum there. Hell, I would rather, and Al Horford got a lot of open looks and made a lot of buckets, and it breaks my heart when Al Horford has a big game against us. But I'd rather Al Horford taking that last shot than Jason Tatum. Especially if you're going to guard Jason Tatum with DeAnthony Melton. No offense to DeAnthony Melton. I am a DeAnthony Melton fan. Embiid balled out millisecond away from a full. Exactly. Heartbreaking end. My wife was sleeping already at that point. I woke her up because I screamed when that ball went in. But you cannot have Jason Tatum guarded by DeAnthony Melton in the closing second of a game. When the game deciding shot is going up, you can't have a 6'2" guy guarding a 6'8" guy who's running with full momentum up the court. You just can't do that. And that comes down to Doc Rivers. And again, I am not overreacting to the game. We know who this team is, I think, at this point. We know what they're capable of. And that game, I mean, they were down in that game multiple times. They showed so much grit and determination to come back. They had the lead. They lost the lead. Celtics had a bigger lead. They fought their way back. They got into it. But it was all for naught because of that last play. And I don't think there's a single person at Wells Fargo Center that didn't think that Tatum shot was going in. We just knew it was. The Celtics are a better team. I get that. But you can counter that with good coaching. Getting your guys in the right spot. Yes, we're going to get into the Sixers bench being weak. Maxey, we're going to get into all these comments here. Tucker was shutting down Tatum all game long. I tweeted, I think he had 4 points at the half, Joe. Maybe 6. But they let him get going in the fourth quarter. And a shooter's going to shoot, and an offensive player like Tatum's going to keep shooting, whether he's having an off day or not. And you can't put DeAnthony Melton on him. I would love to go back and rewatch that final shot and see who else. I mean, I know McDaniels was on the court. I'm sure Tucker was on the court. I'm sure James Harden and Joel Embiid were on the court. Whose assignment was who? Because if it's me, it's definitely not Melton on Tatum. Hell, we have seen Joel Embiid guard Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially in clutch time of games against the Bucks. Put Joel on Jason Tatum. Let him lock him down. Tatum ain't going to get a clean look on Joel Embiid. But you put the smallest guy on the court on their best player, their clutchest player, their guy that is no doubt going to get the final shot. So the same thing that we said last week when we were talking about this team coming out of the All-Star break, the same thing I'm going to say now, and I'm going to say it for the next, there's now 23 games left in the season. We're going to be one of those top 3 teams in the East. But this team has the potential to be a top 1 team. Does it matter or not? It depends on who you're talking to. But it's going to come down to one thing, and that's Doc Rivers coaching. And we've been saying that all year long, how he manages the bench, his rotations. Here, a defensive assignment. I know, I think it's Coach Yeager is the defensive coach of the Sixers team. Are you telling me it was his call? I don't know. Maybe. But you can't let that happen. You just can't. When you're in the crunch time of a playoff atmosphere down at the Wells Fargo, all eyes on you, and you're going to let that last play go off the way it did, it's heartbreaking. It's what it is. But it's business as usual for the Sixers team. And that's the problem I have. If Embiid is healthy, Philly is going to be in a war. They're going to be – see, the thing is, guys, at Ref the District, they're going to be in a war with both those teams if they want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, because they're going to have to go through Boston and Milwaukee. And that's the problem. Can they battle through a war against, say, the Bucks in the second round and then still be healthy enough and have enough energy left for the Celtics? Problem is, the Celtics just – it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter. The Celtics have gone through 3 coaches now in the last – how long has it been since Danny Ainge? Danny Ainge was a coach of the Celtics during the process. He dominated the Sixers, knocked us out of the playoffs. Then you had Ndoku, he dominated the Sixers. Now you got this new guy coaching this year. He's dominating the Sixers. It's just something in the water in Boston. And Joel says it the best. He said it before in this season. He said, it's not our biggest rival because they whoop our ass every single time we play them. And he's right. He is right when he says the Celtics have our number. They always have. They always will at this point. Until we prove it otherwise, we always are going to get beaten by Boston. And it's a shame because Boston's a great team. But I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But the Sixers are a great team too. And like I just said, it's going to come down to coaching. And Doc Rivers has just not given us the confidence that he could beat any team when it comes down to this clutch end of game playoff atmosphere moment. No timeout at the end of the game left. It happens in basketball. It's not the worst thing in the world, but 1 second left and you got Joel Embiid heaving a full court shot. He made it. It just was a half a second too late. Joel Embiid, I'll go back to this comment here from Mark. He balled out again. Let's look at Joel Embiid's numbers. 41 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 box shots, only 3 turnovers. He was a +8. We lost by 3, but he was a +8. And we're going to get into why we lost this game in the plus-minus category. End of the Maxey off the bench experiment. Very possible. Thought Melton played great D versus Tatum. Yeah, but see, the thing is, he played okay defense. He's just not big enough. You've got McDaniels. You got Tucker, who locked them down all game long. You had, like I said, Joel Embiid has locked down Giannis in clutch times of games against the Bucks. You don't put your smallest guy against their number one player who's 4 or 5 inches bigger than him. You just don't. It's just not. Well, if you got PJ Tucker locking a guy down all game long, held him to 4 or 5 points in the first half, why would you then, in the clutch final shot of the game, switch that up? That's what doesn't make sense. All right, if you want to say all game long, Melton's guarding Tatum and they're having a battle all game, I get that. But why switch it up at that last moment? I disagree. I think you switch it. You keep with what worked all game. Joel Embiid balled out the entire game. And again, we're going to get into this bench situation that Joe and Mark are commenting about here in a second. You can't waste these Joel Embiid moments. And I want to touch on, I don't know if you guys, who was watching this game or not. And Joel Embiid, again, getting massively disrespected in the MVP voting conversation. Somewhere in the middle part of the game, Jeff Van Gundy and the crew, they were talking about, this game and how there was, Tatum and Embiid, MVP candidates, on the court. But Jeff Van Gundy flat out just said, no, Nikola Jokic is my MVP. If you want to say Jokic is your MVP voting-wise, and you want to say because he does this, that, and the third, that's great. But Jeff Van Gundy flat out said one reason why that he is the MVP over Joel Embiid. And he said, because availability is everything. Availability. Playing every game. Not missing games. All right. So you're telling me Joel Embiid's missed 12 games, and that's why you don't want him as your MVP. Okay. 12 out of whatever. We're 23 games left, so that means we've played 59 games so far, if my math is correct. So he's missed 12 of 59 games. Jeff Van Gundy does not realize that Nikola Jokic has missed 9 games. So 3 less games at the end of a year is the difference between that. That's why Jokic is your vote for MVP. Do some research. Don't listen to the national narrative and say, okay, well, Joel Embiid misses games, so he's not my MVP. Obviously, the other guy is my MVP. And use that as the excuse when the other guy misses just as many games this year. On top of that, Nikola Jokic comes out on defense at the end of a game. Joel Embiid's out there guarding guys at the end of a game. He doesn't have to come out as a defensive liability like Jokic does. That really pissed me off mid-game when Jeff Van Gundy starts going on this thing. Well, availability is everything. And you can hear the other announcers like thinking like, hold on, I think Joel Embiid's played almost as many games as Jokic at this point. It's insane. It really pissed me off. In a game when Joel Embiid was dominating, Tatum, the other MVP candidate, was struggling at that point. You're going to go and pull the Joel Embiid misses games narrative to say that Jokic is the MVP, and that's why I'm already 20-some games left in the season. My vote's already locked in. It's going to be Jokic again. When we know Jokic has missed almost as many games as Joel Embiid. It burned me. And I kind of like Jeff Van Gundy to an extent. I always have. Don't think he's as bad as people think. But, man, that pissed me off. All right, so let's get to some of these other comments here. Sixers bench, weak. Maxey needs to start, and someone else said, the end of the Maxey off the bench experiment. Well, let me tell you something. You want to talk about, I mentioned Joel Embiid was a +8. PJ Tucker was a +21. 16 rebounds and 7 points. Harris, 19 points, a +18. Tobias Harris has slowly turned himself into, I said it on Thursday and Friday's show, Tobias Harris, one of the most important people down the stretch for the Sixers team, turned himself into a quality defensive player. But the bench of the Sixers. Daryl Morey supposedly built this better bench. But the bench is no different than it was. It still sucks. You move Tyrese Maxey to the bench. It's not working, guys. It's just not. DeAnthony Melton starting. You're trading Maxey's confidence and offense for a little bit better of a defender in DeAnthony Melton. It's not working. You're burning out Joel Embiid and James Harden before the playoffs. And let's be honest, PJ Tucker has played 35 minutes the other night and 38 against the Celtics. You need him for the playoffs. And you're starting to see now these post-All-Star break games when he's playing more minutes. You're playing the small ball center. You're starting to see that defensive presence as the game slows down closer to the playoffs that PJ Tucker is supposed to bring. You're starting to see that. But let's go through this defensive. Let's go through this bench here for the Sixers. You got McDaniels, played 15 minutes. 2 rebounds, 1 steal, 4 points, a -23. George Niang has been ice cold. He is not bang, bang, George Niang right now. Bang, bang, George Niang. He played 13 minutes. 0 points, 1 rebound, 1 steal, -22. Paul Reed, they let him out there for 5 minutes. 1 rebound, 1 steal, -14. Tyrese Maxey off the bench again, struggles again. 0 for 2 from deep, played 25 minutes, scored 8 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, a steal, -11. And then you let Shake Milton on the court for 2 whole minutes, and he went at -4. That's the only thing in the stat sheet that Shake Milton put in his 2 minutes was that -4. There's not much you could do about this bench at this point. Maybe we should have gone out and tried to find a way to get Kevin Love here. I don't know. Maybe we should have. Maybe we should bash Daryl Morey a little bit more for not attacking, the buyout market a little bit better. You went and got Wade and Dedmon. He hasn't played yet. Patrick Beverly was out there. Kevin Love was out there. Now, I'm not going to say Russell Westbrook. I want him, but Will Barton. There were guys out there. They're not guys that are going to be the difference between winning a title or not. But they might be the reason that not attacking this bench a little bit more in the trade market and the buyout market might be the difference between why we can't get to the finals or the Eastern Conference Finals. Because at this point, you've got to burn Joel Embiid every game. Now, I know he's making $40 million a year. He's an MVP caliber player, but he's 7'2", 285 pounds. There's only so many minutes a guy that size can play. You want him fresh, healthy, energetic for the playoffs? Well, playing him 40 minutes a night, every night, is not going to do that. And at this point, you have to. I don't know what there's the Maxey part of the bench. That's conversation one. Conversation two is what you do with the backup center. I know eventually Dwayne Dedmon will be playing, and maybe he gets some minutes over Reed and Trez. But Dwayne Dedmon really is here so Joel Embiid can have a day off, more so than vital minutes in a playoff atmosphere game when Joel's playing. The small ball center, it works depending on the team you're playing. If you want to do that with Paul Reed or PJ Tucker and Tobias Harris. But somebody's got to step up. In those 5 minutes, Paul Reed's got to do more to earn more minutes. Montrezl Harrell you have to give him a shot again. I know he was a liability at times, but you got to give him another shot. You cannot keep burning. And I know Montrez is out of the rotation because when Daryl Morey talked on that other podcast, he mentioned everybody but Trez's name. Adam, this is 110% accurate. He is gone if they don't get out of the second round. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it in my mind. The question is, should Daryl Morey be gone too if they don't get out of the second round? And I'll push that button really hard after the season's over if we have another disappointing playoff run. That Daryl Morey's just as much to blame as Doc Rivers. Look, Doc Rivers is doing we talked about it on Friday. Doc Rivers is coaching probably his best season as a Sixer. Probably his best season as a coach since the middle of that run with the Clippers before it kind of fell apart in L.A. He's coaching well this year. He is limited to what he's got. He's got Paul Reed and Montrezl Harrell and Dwayne Dedmon as options behind Joel Embiid. He's got guys, Shake Milton. I love Shake Milton, just like the next Sixers fan. But Shake Milton is not a quality player. George Niang, if his shot's not falling, what's he? Look at this benching. It's McDaniels, Niang, Reed, Maxey, Milton. Guys that didn't play on Saturday night, Daniel House Jr., Trez, and Furkan Korkmaz. That is your bench. That is what Doc Rivers is working with. And that's the problem. Like, Doc is not doing a good job coaching. Obviously, Melton should not have been on Tatum on that final play. Yes, he's got to find a way to get minutes off of Joel Embiid. But what other options does he have at this point? He's been given, other than calling up Mac McClung and seeing if he's got something from the Blue Coats, there aren't many options. Options are trying to, maybe in these final 23 games, put Maxey back in the starting lineup, put Melton back on the bench. Look, I don't like the idea. Maybe you put Tobias Harris on the bench. I think it's a stupid idea because I don't know who you'd start over him. But you got to find a way to work on this rotation. It's pathetic to say this. But maybe you give Furkan 10, 12 minutes, see if he can get hot again. Maybe you give Daniel House one final shot. See if he can start knocking down shots. He has in the past, not often, but maybe you do it. Because right now, what you're running out there is just not working. And it's going to burn out Joel Embiid. It's going to burn out James Harden. And we got home and home against Miami now, Monday and Wednesday. Miami's faltering a little bit, but they're still a good team. They still got Jimmy Butler, Bam, Hero. They're still a quality team, still with a great coach in Spoelstra. They want to beat the Sixers, obviously. They want to turn their season around, get the momentum back. So where are you going to rest Joel? These are playoff atmosphere, playoff quality games. You can't. You rest Joel Embiid right now, the game's over. You lose. You rest James Harden right now. Are you going to start Shake Milton? No. You got to look down the schedule to when you got a weaker opponent and maybe you give some of these guys some breaks. But as it is right now, you got to run these guys. And you're going to run them into the ground. I don't know. I think you go back to Mark's thing, the Maxey, where is it? Somewhere up there, whatever. The Maxey experiment on the bench is over. Yeah, there it is. End it. End the Maxey bench experiment. I think we've given it, what, 10 games now? 12 games since he's been coming off the bench? Maybe more than that, actually. It's not working. It's not consistently working enough. And that's the problem. It's not consistently working enough. You gotta throw him back in there. You gotta put Melton back on the bench. Melton's this much. So Melton to Maxey, the difference defensively, but the difference offensively of Maxey and Melton is here. You need confident Maxey offensively. You do, because if you do get Maxey back in the confidence, column on offense, then the difference that you lose with him defensively, it's pointless. It doesn't matter. You got to get Maxey. Maxey's a 40+% 3-point shooter. Not anymore, but he was all of last year, most of this year. They can't hit the side of a barn right now with the basketball. You got to get that confidence back. You put him in the lineup, and you just see what you got. He's playing. I mean, against the Celtics the other night, he played 25 minutes. You're telling me, I know he struggled in those 25 minutes, but you're telling me there wasn't 10 more minutes? Melton played the same exact amount of minutes as Tyrese Maxey. You're telling me D'Anthony Melton's a better player? No. Yet Harden played 41 minutes. So I'm trying to lean in here and see this screen. Harden played 41 minutes. You can see, I mean, compared to the night before, his shot just wasn't falling. Legs tired. That's what's going to happen. You're telling me you couldn't give 3 more of Harden's minutes in the middle of the game to Tyrese Maxey? Well, if you start him, you get him back into that minute. Tyrese Maxey needs to be playing 30 to 35 minutes a game. He's 21, and when the going gets tough, Maxey's energy and confidence and smile, I know smile doesn't seem like much, but that energy and confidence that he exudes can be the difference that turns a game around when things are struggling. Your shots aren't falling. Well, Maxey, there ain't many people better in the league at getting to the rim than Tyrese Maxey. And the announcers on Saturday night acknowledged that. He can get past anybody in the NBA. He needs to do more of that. And you got to give him more minutes so he can do that. And if he starts getting to the rim, starts knocking down some layups and getting to the free throw line, all of a sudden that 3-point shot, because teams have to guard against his slashing, maybe get some more open looks instead of hands in his face or fade away, fall away threes. Maybe that starts getting his confidence level back to where it needs to be. Because if this Maxey is the Maxey we have going into the playoffs, we don't have to worry about getting out of the second round. We're going to struggle to get out of the first round. Right now, I think if it ended right now, I think we'd be playing the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. Knicks are red hot. We struggled against the Knicks this year, at least in one game. If we don't have a confident Maxey, and we're basically a 2-man team come playoff time, we'll probably beat the Knicks in a 7-game series, but we'll probably lose a few more games than you think. You got to get Maxey right. I said the other day on this show that Tobias Harris, getting him right was most important. I might be flipping the script. And saying getting Tyrese Maxey right is the most important for this team's success. I might be saying that. There's a strong chance that that's the case. So tonight, like I said, they're still in South Philly tonight. End of this homestand that started before the All-Star break. They got Miami in town. They're the favorite over Miami. Miami is obviously struggling. They're a 6-point favorite. Nobody's on the injury list except for Dwayne Dedmon. Will we ever see Dwayne Dedmon play this year? Who knows? I'm looking at Miami. Miami sits in the 7 spot right now. They've lost 4 in a row. 4 of their last 10. They've only won 4 of their last 10 games. They're faltering big time. So it should be an opportunity for the Sixers to pounce on this Miami team. But one thing we know Jimmy Butler, he still holds a chip on his shoulder and an extra edge when he plays against Philly. He wanted to stay here. He lost to Ben Simmons and Brett Brown. He's always got that little extra motivation to play Philly. So we'll see what he pulls out of his bag of tricks tonight. Hopefully they figure out a plan to stop this team. I think Miami's got. I think their run of dominance is slowly turning to the end there. I mean, you think about Butler's getting older. Bam just never really got to that next level hero. Whatever you think of hero, I don't know. Kevin Love's now starting and playing minutes for them. As what's his name not playing right now? I guess Lowry is not playing. He's not even dressed, so he might be out right now. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing special about their team right now, the Miami Heat. Let me pull up the Sixers injury report for tonight's game. Yeah, Lowry is out already, so he's got an injury. So, yeah, they got a guy, Nikolai Jovic. I thought I saw Jokic. I'm like, when was Jokic playing for them? Um, they should be able to pull it out. They should. The Sixers, that is. Um, but, again, the Jimmy Butler factor, there he is right there. He'll never come down. He'll stay hanging up in my rafters. Maxey has to be the dominant guy he was before for them to ever exactly. I almost want to run a poll after the show, Joe, on Twitter. Who getting right or who maxing, not to use a pun on words, maxing out their potential is more important for the Sixers' success, Tyrese Maxey or Tobias Harris? I 2-3 days ago, I would have voted Tobias Harris, but because we saw a good game from Saturday, the last two games were good. Maybe Tyrese Maxey overtakes that because, yeah, Tyrese Maxey also getting him right gives you the opportunity to rest, or at least rest James Harden a little bit before the playoffs, because you can start Harden or Maxey and Melton. You can give Harden a day off. You give Shake Milton a few extra minutes, whatever it may be. But if Maxey's not right, you can't do that. So I think the Sixers win tonight. I hope they win tonight. We'll see. But we got to start. We got to wait. Like we said, Sixers have this super tough schedule that they're in the midst of right now. I'm pulling up a whole thing here because they got the Heat on a home to home right now, and then after that you got Dallas and Milwaukee, then Indy, then Minnesota, then home for. We're on the start of a 5-game road trip here. Well, tonight's home against Miami, then 5 games: Miami, Dallas, Milwaukee, Indy, Minnesota. And that's in that 5-game road trip. There's 2 back-to-backs on the road. It's tough. It's going to be tough to win 2 of those 5 games. You got Miami on Wednesday, Dallas on Thursday. Then you get a day off. Then you're in Milwaukee on Saturday. Then you're off on a Sunday, and you go Indy, Minnesota, Monday, Tuesday. Then at least they get a Wednesday, Thursday off before they head home. So that's tough. 5 road games in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 road games in a 7-day stretch. If they go 2-3 in that stretch, it's going to be a miracle. If they go better than 2-3 in that stretch, that's great. But again, we're talking about a title contending team here. We're talking about a team that has these expectations that they need to get out of the second round. Look, we saw the rumors this weekend and the last week, again, about James Harden possibly going back to Houston. Guys, unless we win a finals, an NBA title, James Harden is not going back to Houston. James Harden wants a title. Now, if we won a title this year, sure. Maybe he wants to go back to his favorite city where he still spends most of his time in the offseason. Sure. But James Harden wants that title more than anything else right now. That's his legacy on the line. He ain't going back to Houston to a 14-win Houston Rockets team and expected to turn it around or anything. It's just not happening. And then somebody dropped a rumor mill that Joel Embiid might want to demand a trade out of town if things keep going this way. Look, Joel Embiid demanding a trade out of town, it's something I think we touched on once a couple of months ago, maybe before the season started, that maybe that would happen. But before that happens, he is going to exhaust all options to get the title here in Philly. He is dedicated to this city and to this team. Now, he might demand the coach be fired. He might demand, this star player I think is a better chance than what we got. Whatever you got to do to get him here. He might go on that recruiting, tampering spree and try to force another player to get traded here. But before then, so this is not going to be Joel Embiid's last year in Philly. There's 0, 0, 0, 0 chance. Unless he demands all this stuff, get rid of Doc, get rid of Darryl, whatever it may be. And then they say no. Maybe then he demands a trade out of town. But unless that happens, and it's a distinct, doubtful possibility, then he's not going anywhere. So those rumors are out there. But whatever. I just think that this stretch, although tough, can be a defining moment for this team. It starts tonight against Miami. Again, then on Wednesday, you start your 5-game and 7-day road trip. So really, I guess they got 6 games in 9 days starting tonight. Man, it's going to be a tough stretch. There's going to be a lot of down moments talking Sixers on this team. There's going to be a lot of highs, but there's going to be a lot of lows as well. All right, let's transition to Eagles talk. Before this show, actually, let me refresh Twitter. Maybe something's already happened on Twitter. Let me see here. Let's refresh Twitter. I don't see anything happening. All right, so before the show went live, a few minutes before the show, the rumors started to circulate that Sean, I don't even know how to say his last name properly till I hear someone else say it. Desai, Desai, defensive coach from Seattle, an assistant head coach, assistant defense coordinator, whatever. Desai, that he's coming in. He's the first guy to come in for a second interview for the Eagles defensive coordinator position. Now, I tweeted it out last week, said I'm kind of concerned that we still don't have our defensive coordinator locked up. Some people told me it's no big deal, that they probably already have a guy. They just haven't announced it. Look, I'm 99.9% positive Brian Johnson is your offensive coordinator. They're just waiting to hire a defense coordinator to announce both together, have one press conference. That's probably what they're doing. But the fact that they haven't announced a defensive coordinator, I was ready before I saw those rumors that Sean D. We'll just call him Sean D till I figure out how to pronounce his name. Before the rumors that he was coming in today for his second interview, which probably means that they're just going to lock him up today. You've already lost out on Vance Joseph. You lost out on Vic Fangio. Leonard, I think that was their choice, and he decided to sit out a year of football. Not necessarily because of the Eagles, but maybe. I got a little theory and thread on that we'll get into in a second here. I think you missed out on a bunch of guys. Sean D is a Vic Fangio disciple, so to say. He's worked under Vic Fangio a lot. I think, so first off, I tweeted this out last week. Everyone's like, it's no big deal. And another podcast network, they tweeted it out last night, a video. Why haven't they locked these guys up? And again, everyone's telling them, talking 215, don't worry, it's no big deal. But it is to me. Because I think they wanted a veteran voice. They wanted Vance Joseph. They wanted Vic Fangio. They lost out on these guys. And why did they lose out on these guys? And I've got an interesting theory here on this. Now, this is not a bashing Howie Roseman segment. But we know Howie Roseman is extremely, extremely involved in player personnel decisions, in coaching decisions, in even to an extent, game plan decisions. He likes to be the number one guy. He makes the decisions. There were issues between Jim Schwartz and Howie Roseman. There were issues between Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. These bigger names, Vance Joseph, Vic Fangio, these are guys that were head coaches before. These are guys with a track record as successful coordinators. They come in and sit down with Howie Roseman for an interview. And yes, Howie Roseman has the final say on these guys. We know that. It's not the final say. It's not Nick Sirianni's final say on these coordinators. What's going on, my man? How you doing today? It's not their final decision. It's Howie Roseman's final decision. And these guys have their way of wanting to do things. They've been in the league for a long time. They have their systems they want to run, their schemes they want to run. They'll want some say on, hey, we need these kind of players, not those kind of players. And then you have Howie Roseman saying, no, we like this system that Jonathan Gannon ran. These are the kind of players. Can you run this kind of system with what we give you? You think these veteran guys want to come to Philly and answer to Howie Roseman? Again, it's not a knock on Howie Roseman per se. Howie Roseman got us to a Super Bowl title, blew the ship up, and 5 years later, right back in the Super Bowl again. You can't question Howie's success rate, his track record. You just can't. But that's why you had Jonathan Gannon here and Shane Steichen here, young, impressionable guys that are going to do whatever they're told to an extent, even Nick Sirianni to an extent, because, hey, they want those opportunities. But somebody that's going to have 8 opportunities like a Vic Fangio or a Vance Joseph or a Jim Leonard who, was thinking about sitting out football for a year because of, I think, a leg or hip surgery that he needed, but then decided, well, I'll take the interview with the Eagles. Then you listen to Howie Roseman, hey, you're going to do things my way. I think I'm going to go have that surgery and sit out a year. I have a chance of being an Alabama coach, a coordinator anywhere in the NFL. I'm going to wait. Anybody overly confident in their skills is going to wait. And that's why you're going to get these promote from within guys or these assistants elsewhere coming in this regime right now. Sean D, he's not even been, I don't even know if he's been a position coach. He's been like an assistant coordinator under Vic Fangio for most of his career. I think he was the secondary coach in Seattle this past year. I mean, isn't it an exciting name? No. Is he a young up-and-comer? If you like the Vic Fangio potential, everybody that wanted Vic Fangio, if you liked Vic Fangio, you should like Sean D to be the Eagles defensive coordinator. Now he's a defensive backs coach. We got a lot of holes in the secondary this upcoming season. A lot. Whether we keep Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Bradbury, whether we draft somebody at the 10th pick to play in the secondary, a lot of questions. We also have a lot of young guys, like a Zach McPherson, that hasn't taken that next step. Maybe having a guy that's got experience coaching defensive backs, maybe that helps. Maybe that makes it a smarter hire. We'll see. Dropping later today, the start. I've got a 7-part series, short videos. Should they go? Eagles free agency thing. So make sure you like and subscribe to the DSM Media YouTube page and turn those notifications on, because the only place to see the should they stay or should they go series is on the YouTube page, the DSM Media YouTube page. Now I'll share it out on YouTube and Facebook, I'm sure, but that's the only place to watch it is on the YouTube page. And this free agency period, we need to get these coordinators situated. Everyone says, it doesn't matter, whatever. We do. Free agency starts, I think, March 15th. We're the 27th? Let me look. Yeah, today's the 27th. That's a problem. Got to get this situated here. The draft, the combine, all these things are happening really soon. We need our coordinators in place so we know what we're doing. Now, I know the system isn't going to change much, and that's why the big names haven't been hired here. I still firmly believe that a veteran voice needs to be in that front office somewhere, coaching-wise. But you need somebody in a consulting. You blame Ben Simmons for the L on Saturday. Well, you're a little late for that conversation. We could have dove into that at some point here, but yeah, not now. Something's got to give with a veteran voice in the Eagles locker room now. All right, so I got something else that really dug at me wrong with the Eagles. Well, slightly linked to the Eagles. That I really do want to address here. And that's my man, Michael Barkan. From NBC Sports Philly, when it was Comcast. It's been in Philly covering games for over 20. Whenever Comcast first started, or whatever it was called at first, now it's NBC Sports Philly, whatever. He was, I guess, unofficially suspended for a few weeks after the Super Bowl. And he hosts that show, Eagles Huddle, with Brooks. And I miss when it was versus. I don't even know what that means. Sorry. Michael Barkan was forced to come on the air at the end of the show of the Birds Huddle and issue an apology because he dropped the word bullshit in the Eagles Super Bowl post-game show. The word bullshit. I might get dinged on YouTube for using it. I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like that bad of a word. So the Eagles, or NBC Sports Philly, you host a post-game show. You're competing with podcasters all over the place, YouTube channels all over the place. You're struggling to get views. And you got a guy, Michael Barkan, that's been there for over 25 years. One of the hardest working people. And I was surprised when I tweeted this out. I was surprised how many people don't like Michael Barkan. Michael Barkan is just us. He's just a Philly fan. Lives and breathes these Philly sports teams. And the guy hosts pregame and postgame shows for every sports team across the board. I remember I worked at a Friendly's in like 1998, 99 or something like that. and he would come in for ice cream with his family. I was like, that's Michael Barkan, man. He was a legend to me then, and he's a legend to me now. We've had, Angelo retire from the air. Well, Michael Barkan's a legend too, just like Angelo. The YouTube content creators that we all are, doing these recaps and post-game and pre-game shows. We got people like Michael Barkan hosting the sports talk show that they used to do, to thank for that. And you're going to make him go on the air and apologize. Because after the Super Bowl, a fan, a guy that covers these teams for a living in an emotional state, because that's what these post-game shows are. It's just emotional, instant reactions. You're going to make him go on the air and apologize because when they were talking about the James Bradbury penalty, should it have been called, should it not? It's like, that's bullshit. He was pissed. His Eagles, his favorite team, his team he covers, lost the Super Bowl on a lame call. I won't call it a BS call because it was a penalty. Whatever. But it was probably a penalty that shouldn't have been called in that moment. And he just felt the emotion come out of him, and he dropped the BS word. And you're going to suspend him for it? You're going to make him go on the air and apologize for it? I felt bad for him. And you could see in his apology, it looked cringeworthy. It looked awkward. It looked like he didn't want to do it. He was probably told he had no choice but to do it. It's a damn shame what they made a guy that's basically lived and breathed Philly sports for a long time. If he walked away from NBC Sports, Philly, that would be it. That would be the last final nail in the coffin. Some other site like Jacob or whatever would probably pick him up like that to do their thing. And a lot more eyes would tune in. The guy's great at what he does. And he had a raw, emotional moment that you got pissed at him. Look, first off, the Super Bowl ends at like 11 o'clock. Can't you say bullshit after 11? Maybe you can't say it at 9:17 in the morning, but we'll find out what YouTube says about me dropping it 3 times on this show already. But Michael Barkan, I feel bad for him. And I want to say, it's okay, Michael, that you said what you said. We don't need your apology. I want more raw emotion from my hosts of shows like that. That's what you get here. You get emotion, you get raw emotion, and you get raw interaction. There's too much negativity in these shows. And we try to bring some positivity. And just that raw emotion from Michael Barkan, that's what we want more of. That's all. And unfortunately, he got in trouble for it and had to issue an awkward-ass apology for it. And to this moment, I just can't get over it. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why they made him do that the way they did. It just made no sense to me. All right. So that's it on that. And again, I had to go into that for a minute. So let's talk a little Phillies here for a second as we get ready to wrap this show up for the day. We got lots of stuff happening on DSM Media this week. I got some good guests lined up. Got obviously lots of Sixers and Eagles talk and Phillies talk to come up this week. So we'll see how the week. I'm trying to work on one guest and see if you're watching. See it. Hit me up. I want that show this week. Phillies this weekend debuted spring training games. They played 3 games over the course of the weekend. We saw Trea Turner on Sunday for the first time in Phillies pinstripes, and he was everything that was advertised. The Saturday games, dude, we didn't see much of anybody. Brandon Marsh played. I think he was pretty much the only regular that played on Saturday. And actually, he got some hits. He looked okay. That's good. You need Brandon Marsh at the bottom of that lineup. Getting on base, hitting lefties. Very important. I think I saw today, 4 days from now, it's Thursday. We'll see Thursday or Friday, we'll see Andrew Painter for the first time this spring. That'll be something to look forward to. But Sunday's game, 2 things happened that I want to touch on. Trea Turner and Nick Castellanos. And we'll start with Trea Turner. Trea Turner came out, first at bat in Phillies pinstripes, gets a base hit. Steals second base, scores a run. That is what you want out of your leadoff hitter. And it is so refreshing to finally have. And this is not a knock on Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber did what he did last year. We don't make the World Series without Kyle Schwarber, the leadoff hitter, and how he performed and all the power and the leadership and everything else he did last year. Kyle Schwarber moving down to the 4-hole and have Trea Turner in the leadoff spot. Man, it is going to be exciting. That is exactly what you want from a leadoff hitter. Getting on base, getting in scoring position, and scoring runs. However it happens. getting on base, getting in scoring position, and scoring runs. And that's what Trea Turner did. He went 2 for 3 yesterday. RBI, a run, a stolen base. Man, if he can have stat lines like that all year, maybe I'll change my opinion. Maybe I haven't made a prediction yet. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty. I predicted 87 wins last year. I was pretty much spot on there. I'm not thinking it's going to be much more than that this year at this point, but we'll see. As we get closer to the end of spring training, maybe my opinion starts to swing with this Trea Turner being in the lineup. Maybe this team is better than I think it is. And I think it's a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think they're going to make another playoff run. But maybe they're even better. And maybe that Trea Turner addition to the top of the order. When was the last time we had a pure leadoff hitter? I mean, Jimmy Rollins was a really great leadoff hitter. Who is a pure leadoff hitter? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the last time we had a pure leadoff hitter. And this is going to be something special we're watching here with him. And to piggyback off of Trea Turner, I just said, get on base, get in scoring position, and score runs. And how do you score runs as a leadoff hitter? The guys behind you in the lineup got to drive you in. And one Mr. Nick Castellanos hit a big 2-run home run last night, or yesterday. It wasn't night, it was daytime. It was a day game. And I love that 2 of the 3 games this weekend were telecast. Damn straight they were on the TV at the pizza shop. I don't care if they're spring training. I don't care if Nick Nelson was the starting pitcher or Andrew Bellotti. I'm watching every spring training game that's televised. It's on at the shop. Come join me for a slice. I'll put it on. Well, I won't have to put it on. It'll be on. So Nick Castellanos hits a big 2-run home run yesterday. But there's 2 things about it that really, really stuck out to me. Because I've said it before. Nick Castellanos, while Bryce Harper is out, is so, so important. I saw somebody tweet it out. I think I saw Cole retweet it out. Or maybe Cole was the one that tweeted it out. That somebody bet Nick Castellanos is MVP. It was something like 1,000 to 1 or something like that. It's not the worst bet in the world. Because while Bryce Harper's out, and he's going to be out probably till July 1st, in my opinion. I think it's about the 4th of July weekend when we see Bryce Harper back on the field. Nick Castellanos having an MVP season catapults us to not just a contender for the playoffs, but a contender for the NL East crown. And he can. He was an MVP candidate the year before he came to Philly. Now, I don't expect him to hit 35 home runs, driving 120 RBIs or anything like that. But he doesn't have to. He just has to be better. That positive regression that I talked about the last 2 weeks for Nick Castellanos. He just has to have that positive regression. Be closer to that 2021 form than the 2022 form. And that home run he hit yesterday, if you go back and watch the play again, first off, it might not have even been a home run in Citizen Bank Park. I know the ball flies in Philly, but the ball flies in Clearwater. And that park is an easy park to hit a home run in, especially to right field. But what you saw, it was an inside pitch. He was able to get his hands in and drive it opposite field, take the ball where it had to go. If he tries to pull that ball, it's an out or a pop out or he swings over the top of it. But he went opposite field. He went where he had to go with that ball. And he drove it into the gap. Now, in Citizen Bank Park, it might hit the top of the wall. It might not get over the fence. But even in Citizen Bank Park, that's a double. Driving in a run. Maybe on a day when the wind's blowing out or in August and hitting weather, as Charlie Manuel likes to say, maybe it's a home run then. But in April in Philly, it's probably not a home run. But it probably drives in a run if Trea Turner's on base. If he's on second base and Nick Castellanos hits that ball, that's a run. And that's what stuck out to me. The fact that he was able to go opposite field and drive the ball into the gap. Which, again, it went over the fence. But that is what Nick Castellanos is. Nick Castellanos is not a 35 home run hitter. Nick Castellanos is a 45 double hitter. And if you can get 40, 45 doubles from Nicky, that's huge. If you can get 40 doubles, 25 home runs, and there's been years he's had 5+ triples in a year. If you can get a combined 70 extra base hits of any kind from Nick Castellanos, watch out at Major League Baseball. And then you add Bryce Harper in July to the lineup. That's where that MVP ticket, maybe it cashes. Maybe you get him closer to 300 batting average. You get him at a 330, 340 on base percentage, back to that 900 OPS. Maybe. And as great as it was to see Trea Turner getting on base and doing what we brought him to do here, I think it was more. I don't think we're going to see the regret. Like Nick Castellanos came here with expectations through the roof, and he dipped big time in his first year in Philly, and we expected to go back up. I don't expect that dip from Trea Turner. So seeing some already in the first game of the year, seeing some progress in that confident. That swing was confident from Nick Castellanos on Sunday. It was a confident swing. And he drove the ball opposite field. If we could start building upon that in the spring, so that when game one comes in April, this Phillies team, a great Nick Castellanos performance this season, it's going to be something special in Philly on every night of the year, summer, but especially on the weekends. I mean, Nick Castellanos, that really showed me something there. I know it's the first game, and we're overreacting to a first game of spring training for these guys, but you could get little pieces from these games. And him being able to take that pitch the way he did and drive it where he did, I think it's something important. So we'll keep monitoring that. And we'll keep seeing how this team performs in spring training, and you have the World Baseball Classic starting soon. So some of these guys are going to go off to that, but we'll see. All right, so I got one other thing I want to touch on, and it's going to be very briefly here before we wrap the show up, and that is the rules in baseball. And we saw it on Saturday. I forget what game it was. We've already seen. You got the pitch clock, you got the batter clock, and the game ended on the batter clock. The game ended on a batter clock. You got like 8 seconds to get in the batter's box and be set for the pitcher to throw. And if you're not, strike one or two or three. In that situation, strike three. I think Manny Machado was the first person it was called on in like a game earlier in the day. It was just strike one for him. But we actually saw a game end. Now, it was a spring training game, and it was a tie ball game, so it ended in a tie. But we saw a game end on a called third strike because a batter was not in the batter box in 8 seconds. And every time, so the whole point is speeding up the game. We got all these rules changes. Speed up the process of the game. Make the pitcher throw it quicker. Make the batter get ready quicker. You can't do the Ryan Howard adjust the glove after every single play. The Bryce Harper touch the dirt by his feet every play. All this to speed up that. But every time you have a time issue like that, we have to stop. Time. That's a strike. All right, everybody reset now. Well, you just added 13 more seconds to the game. Which, it just literally annoyed the hell out of me to see it. And we're going to see games get screwed up big time on either side because of that this year. You want to speed up the game, but you're eliminating the shift, which is going to create more offense and runs, which is great for the game. But more runs means longer games. You expanded the size of the bases, more stolen bases, more runs. Going to lengthen the time of the game. But yet you're doing this stupid pitch clock thing, which is going to just hypothetically speed it up, but also slow it down. I don't think baseball knows what they're doing there with these rule changes. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm against the banning the shift. I understand why they're doing it, but why they're doing it is countering why they're trying to do these pitch clocks and everything else to speed up the game. I don't agree with the shift rule. Whatever, I'll accept it. You know, change is sometimes good, sometimes it's not. It is what it is. Hey, real quick before we wrap this show up, I talked Eagles. I talked Phillies. I talked Sixers, obviously, a long point. I don't know what happened. But the Union won on Saturday as well. Their first game of the season as they try to get back to the MLS Cup again. They won 4-1 on Saturday night. They were down in Chester. I think they were in Chester. I don't know. Maybe it might have been a road game. No, it was a home game. My friends were at the game. So they won 4-1. I wanted to make sure we give a little shout out to the Philadelphia Union. I will get Parcero on here coming days, coming weeks to talk about this MLS Cup season and this Union team. No doubt about it. So we always got to make sure we show the look. I just mentioned 4 Philly teams, and we still didn't mention one of them. I don't know. Flyers, are they doing anything? Hello, anybody there? Flyers? No, nothing. No. All right. We're gonna wrap the show up right there. Trending in the AM. on DSM Media. If you're watching on replay, make sure you still like and subscribe to the channel. Turn notifications on because, again, like I said earlier in the show, I've got a 7-part series. I got 7 small, under 5-minute videos titled Should They Stay or Should They Go? Eagles Free Agency. Breaking down each of the Eagles' top 15, 16 free agents and whether the Eagles should or shouldn't let them stay, extend them, not whatever. It's only going to be on the DSM Media YouTube page, so make sure you head over there to see that. Drop your comments. I will go back and check them all, or follow me on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge. Tomorrow's show, we'll see what's going on. My girl Penelope, my puppy, she's got to go in for surgery tomorrow morning, so may or may not do the show tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see what the time is and the timing of everything is. But if you're on the YouTube page, that's where you can see all the other videos. Wednesday, let me make sure I say her last name correctly. I'm super excited for Wednesday's guest here. I can't find her last name. Kylie, my girl over at Bell Smashers Pod. New podcast, just started recently, and she's already been able to lock up Mark Appel and Derek Hall as guests, and she's interviewed them both on her new podcast. It's great work, and it's the positivity I want out of podcasters. People just going for it and doing great quality work. She's a huge Phillies, Sixers, and Eagles fan. Can't wait to get her on the show to talk some Phillies on what she's doing on her podcast and talking to Derek Hall and the positivity. I want to keep bringing positivity. Yes, go Phillies Nation. Thank you for everybody that's tuned in. Another great episode of Trending in the AM. Maybe we'll be back tomorrow. If not, we'll be back Wednesday with Kylie. Can't wait for that episode. I'm still working on another special guest for this week. Everybody have a great day. Go Eagles, go Birds, go Sixers, go Union. Have a great day. We'll talk to you maybe tomorrow, if not Wednesday. Have a great day, guys.
And Philadelphia has it.
Swing and a miss.